We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 26 of season 2, I want to talk to you, the people, about a few quick things. First off, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to turn on your post notifications button. It looks like a bell on our YouTube profile. And the reason you're going to want to do that is because these next couple of weeks, we are going to be evaluating each and every Detroit Pistons player on the season they had this last season. We know it was a tough one to watch at many points, but we know that we're going to find negatives and positive when dissecting each and every player. So make sure to keep tuning in, keep liking, commenting, and make sure to comment, if you have any opinions, thoughts, or takes on the things we have to say in episode number 26. We'd love to see what you guys have to say. And if you know friends, family, acquaintances that are Detroit Pistons fans, make sure to hit the arrow button right below this video, and you can share it to Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. So make sure to share your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906. Let's get into episode number 26 of season 2 today. We are going to be evaluating Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren on their 23-24 season with the Detroit Pistons. Two guys in different situations. Isaiah Stewart just now wrapping up his 4th season. Jalen Duren, 20 years old, just wrapped up his 2nd season. And so these guys are in kind of different stages of what an NBA career is. And so this is going to be a good episode. Lots and lots to talk about. We're going to start off with talking about Isaiah Stewart. His 4th season, he averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 49% from the field. And just so you know, if you're looking at a stat box on StatMuse or NBA.com, I rounded up his statistics to just add a nice little buffer there. His last 5 games of the season, obviously he was cut short in the middle of March, missed around the last nearly month of this season. But the last game he played on March 18th was a rough one, 5 points, 5 rebounds. His best game within his last 5 games played this season was March 13th. He had 15 points, 3 blocks, funny enough, and then 2 rebounds. And that's the big important stuff. So Isaiah Stewart in his 4th season has kind of become kind of the image of the Detroit Pistons, of what they kind of want to embody. Ryan, what are some of your first thoughts when talking about Isaiah Stewart this season?
Well, first off, the big one for me is how many games he played. He played 46 games this year, which is down 4 games last year, meaning he would have only played 50 games last year. He has not had one single solid, healthy, completely healthy, full season yet. And he's in his 4th year. And it seems like it's going downhill. It seems like the last 2 years, it keeps going down. And outside of the obviously not playing as many games and being as healthy, outside of those key things, he's not playing terrible basketball. He's playing good. Last year, we saw him develop the 3-point shot. He continued that on this year. Shot 38% from 3. Like, that's not bad out of Isaiah Stewart, who really couldn't shoot to save his life beforehand. So what he's been able to do in such a short period of time, in developing the 3-point shot and continuing that on this year, and then still improving at the line, shooting 75%, not bad. Shooting 49% from the field, again, not bad. He's not shooting the ball terribly. And that's what's been, to me, like the biggest positive out of his game is
Agreed.
how efficient he's been over the course of the last 4 years of his career. You look at James Wiseman and how efficient he is, and Jalen Duren and how efficient he is. I really think Mark Bryant being in there, it really is helping these big men really develop their shots, really be more efficient and effective when they are needed on and needed to lean onto. So to me, outside of the limited games he's played, his shooting has been fantastic.
No, you hit on everything I was going to hit on. I completely agree. His negative is missing games, and then his positive is shooting a high percentage. And I think that proves a lot to the kind of IQ Isaiah Stewart has in the game of basketball. Just because some people kind of knock him on, being a hothead, starting fights, doing all these things, but he really does have a high IQ. And I think that the coaching staff has made an assertive effort with these big men on the Detroit Pistons to make sure they're not throwing every shot they look at. They're going to let the guards do that. Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, so on and so forth. I think Isaiah Stewart does a great job of kind of playing a better percentage of basketball on the offensive end. Is he going to scorch you offensively? No. Is he going to make every bucket because he's just an absolute sharpshooter? No. But he is going to give you a little bit more of an efficient offense because he's not throwing up everything. You don't see the offense go absolutely off the wall, and you're not like, what the crap are they doing on the court right now? Isaiah Stewart can kind of hone in the offense when he's at the helm. And what I kind of liked with Isaiah Stewart, after having last season in his third season getting a lot better at the 3-point line, we've seen him really be a little bit at the top of the key, top of the 3-point line more and more. And especially this season, it was relevant. And I like that because with Isaiah Stewart being a guy that knows how to take smart shots, having him at the top of the key makes the offense a little bit more wide and a little bit more passing minded. And I think Isaiah Stewart added like a fun dynamic to the Pistons that they haven't had since like first or second year Blake Griffin with the Pistons, when he was able to kind of stretch the floor and kind of get the passes going from the top of the key. We just didn't really have any sharpshooters that could really take advantage of that this season. We have a couple guys that are arguably good at 3-point shooting, but overall the Pistons as a whole aren't great at 3-point shooting. So once we get more 3-point shooters on the Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Stewart is going to be a huge asset for them because he's going to be able to provide a nice passing game. And then now that he's developed his 3-point shooting, defenders have to guard up on him. Otherwise he might hurt you. So I completely agree. I think Isaiah Stewart, has hurt himself with getting arrested during the season. And that's one stat we have to add to his averages is one arrest per season. No, but it hurts, and you like to see him play more games. He had that 3-game suspension, so that's going to take him out for 3 less games. And you just hate to see it. I think the biggest thing that we need to expect from Isaiah Stewart in his 5th season is keep playing the way he's been playing and keep shooting the 3-point ball, but show us that you can play 70 or more games. I think that's going to be a huge thing for us to kind of keep an eye on for Isaiah Stewart is keep doing what you're doing, but now let's keep you healthy. You need to prove that you can have a long NBA career and stay healthy. Ryan, I know you were talking about some of the statistics you were looking over from, Isaiah Stewart's current statistics and averages compared to previous seasons. What are some of the big outliers as far as what you see in those differences of the seasons?
Well, obviously, he decreased the amount of games he played. 46 games this year, would have played 50 last year, as I mentioned before. But in doing so, the crazy thing is he dipped in points. He had 64 less points than last year, 98 less rebounds than last year. But he went up in assists by 3, went up in blocks by 4, went down in steals by 3, went down in turnovers, which is good, and went down in fouls, which is also good. But we also have to keep in mind he did do that in less games, but he also did get an increase in minutes. This year, he averaged around to like 30-ish minutes a game, which is the most he's ever played. So maybe that's a big outlier into why he got injured more so this year than in years past. But honestly, I don't necessarily think it's that. I think he has the body type that's more injury prone than a lot of the other guys, kind of like Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis finally played 71 games this season, and prior to this season, he's like Isaiah Stewart. He's getting knocked out constantly by injury. So, to me, when you look at the stats, it's as expected. Between the difference last year to this year, it's as expected, being the fact that he's he still played 46 games. He barely even played a full season. And so you can expect the stats that he had. I mean, 503 points on the season. That's barely scraping the surface. Asar had more than that. 305 rebounds, 73 assists, 38 blocks, 17 steals, and so on. So like he's not that he had a bad season. If he would have been healthy longer, we would have seen him probably have a pretty solid season. Because when Stu's healthy, man, it's hard to guard. It's hard to guard him offensively, more so now than ever. But then defensively, he's just a beast. So like a lot of the opposing big men in the league take note of how hard it is to physically move Stu. As small as he is, he's built. So it's hard. It's moving like a truck. It's hard to move him down there in the paint. So having him defensively for us is a key asset. But when you break down the stats, it's as expected. There's not much of a difference between last year to this year. The biggest difference of them all is the fact that he played less games.
As far as something we learned from Isaiah Stewart this season, just so like when evaluating him, this was something that was in question his first 3 seasons, is if he was good enough to be a playoff power forward and he was having starter minutes and in the starting lineup. I think something we realized this season is he's not going to be that guy. He's going to be a great centerpiece on your bench, but he's not going to be the kind of guy that can give you 32 minutes and give you 16 points and 9 rebounds. He's just not quite there yet. Could he be there one day? I suppose. I just think that if that was the case, we would have saw shines of it by now. That's very much in question for me. So when evaluating this season, we have to mention that it was a big question. Is Isaiah Stewart the starter of the future for the Pistons at the power forward position or center? And no, I just don't think that's the case. So that was a big part of what we learned about Isaiah Stewart this season. Does that mean we respect him any less? I don't think so. I think that he's still a respectable NBA player, but he's just not going to be a starting centerpiece. Ryan, what are some of your thoughts on that topic of learning what Isaiah Stewart has in the future?
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing, and I've pretty much stated it this far, is injury prone wise. How many games can he play? So the last 2 years, 50 to 46 games played, that's not good. So in year 5, if he can get above that, then I see a future on this team for him. But if he can't, then I can see him getting moved because to me, like you said, if by year 4, you should really see how good a player is. Like Killian this past year, we cut him obviously. So what led to us cutting him? Well, first off, he requested a trade. Like, come on, idiot, don't do that. You're already playing bad.
Right.
But he just didn't progress. In the 4 years, he did not progress shooting the ball, which is the biggest drawback in Killian Hayes. Isaiah Stewart's biggest drawback is staying healthy. And outside of staying healthy, can he be a guy that, like you said, can he give you 16 points? Can he be one of those key role players off the bench? I think he can be a key role player, but I don't think he's one of those guys that can get you 16 points. I don't think he's one of those guys that can average a double-double consistently. He's kind of like a utility player in the sense that he tries to do every little thing. He doesn't focus on one thing, but it seemed like this season he really focused on just scoring the ball. And really allowing Duren to get the rebounds, allowing and others to get the rebounds, and just help the team offensively more so than defensively. So to me, if he can play more than 50 games next season, then I see a spot for him on this team going forward. But if he can't stay healthy, what he's done so far in 4 years is not impressive, really. It really isn't. So if you take into account what he's done over the 4 years of his career, on top of not being healthy, I don't know if I see a future with him on this team. I think he's a great role player, but I don't think he can be one of those guys, like you said, to give you 16 points on any given night.
So we talked about Isaiah Stewart's averages, what we found out about him throughout the season. We talked about the positives and negatives. Ryan, what grade do you give Isaiah Stewart on his report card after the 23-24 season?
See, it's tough because obviously I feel like to me he would have been graded much higher if he had a healthy season. But the injury bug that he has is it's terrible. Like he hasn't played one full season yet in his career. So with that being said, I have to take that into a huge consideration with this grade, because his stats really weren't that impressive this year on top of being injured. So to me, honestly, I'm going to give him a D. It wasn't. It was a solid season in the sense of, yeah, he did what was expected out of him in regards to the points total, but rebounding wasn't there. Assists weren't there. Blocks weren't there. Steals weren't there. I mean, his fouls were down. His turnovers were down, which is great. His shooting improved, which is good, but you can't stay healthy. And so because of that, I do have to give him a D.
Yeah, I totally think he's right in that D category. I mean, this isn't a guy that we took in the second round. This was the 16th pick of the 2020 draft. I mean, we're not, I mean, yeah, do we have the highest expectations for that pick? No, but he really still has underperformed from what you usually want from the 16th pick. Um, Averaging only 11 points. I think he should be farther along than that from where he was his rookie year and stuff like that. I think he's kind of plateaued, and then the injuries kind of compound on that. I agree. I think I'll give him a D. I kind of want to go D minus just because, it hurts, knowing that he's kind of fallen short in these last two seasons. But yeah, I'll go with the D, and that'll be Isaiah Stewart's grade for the 23-24 season, a D. So he's passing, but this close to failing. All right, the next guy we're going to talk about is Jalen Duren. Let's evaluate his sophomore season with the Detroit Pistons. His season averages were 14 points, 12 rebounds, 62% from the field in 61 games. He finished, for reference, fifth in the league for most rebounds averaged this season. So top five. That's just absolutely terrific for a second year man. We haven't seen something like that happen since the great Andre Drummond. His last 5 games of the season, he recorded 20 points and 11 rebounds of 6 of 7 shooting. Or no, not 6 of 7. I don't see his percentage there, but his last game of the season, 20 points, 11 rebounds. His best game arguably was his third to last game of the season, March 18th, I believe. And it was, or no, April 18th. He had 17 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, Jalen Duren, we kind of knew what to expect from him, that on any given night he would expose a team and get, 20, 23 points a game. And then obviously he was always going to get his 11 rebounds a game. Ryan, what are some of your first takeaways from Jalen Duren's second season with the Detroit Pistons?
He started becoming a Batman right before our eyes. Obviously, like we've said before, that we're not 100% sure if Cade is Batman. He still has to prove it to us, but I think Duren is proving that to us. The jump between last year to this year in stats obviously is great. I mean, he did have an increase in minutes, but outside of the increase in minutes, take that aside, he had a phenomenal season. What he was able to do, like offensively, but also defensively. But then you take into account the rebounding, and how he really progressed his shot too, alongside of Stu. He also became more of a ball handler within the offense. We saw that stretch where Cade was out, and you had the Nuggets game there. You have Duren going coast to coast. Beforehand, he hadn't really have done that pretty much, and then now he's going coast to coast consistently on a regular basis. He's usually sometimes within the offense the primary ball handler, and that hadn't been done last season. So to see that out of him progressing in that regard offensively is huge for us, because if he can be, I mean, he's very pass savvy already, but if he can increase his basketball IQ by establishing more of a ball handling role within the offense, what can you not do with Jalen Duren going forward? You look at what he did offensively in fewer games too. I might add 6 fewer games than last year. Played 61 games this year, and still had 230 more points this year than last year. Had 115 more rebounds than last year. Had 42 more assists than last year. Like the list goes on. He had a fantastic season, and he rounded out his game a little bit more than he did his rookie season. His rookie season, we're going like, oh, we got something here. We got something good. And then this year he took that step. Obviously, against the Heat in the games that we were at, he struggled against Bam Adebayo at times. Obviously, Bam is a great center in the NBA. Congrats on making the U.S. Team this year for the Olympics because he's that good. But Duren had his moments where he was showing flashes. Heck, remember the 22 rebound game that he had? Like he balled out this year. He improved in every statistical category possible. Obviously, he had the increase in minutes, but increase in minutes aside, it shows you how much better he was in year 2 versus year 1. And taking that large of a jump in year 2 is crazy to even think of, considering he's still only 20 years old.
To make sure that you guys comment below your thoughts on Jalen Duren's second season with the Detroit Pistons. So make sure to pause the video and go comment below your thoughts. But something, Ryan, that I was really impressed by with Jalen Duren was his effort in tough losses, because as we all know, the Detroit Pistons had a rough season, and something that continued to show in these losses is that Jalen Duren never skipped a beat. He was still out there pushing for rebounds, pushing for points, making the right passes, making the right plays. And the reason I bring this up is because I think this is going to prove to be a big thing when the Detroit Pistons finally make the playoffs. Because, you know, in any given round of the playoffs, you can go down 0-2 or 0-3 or 0-1. And Jalen Duren isn't the type of guy that's going to just back down, roll over, and just lose a series like nothing. He's going to go out there and he's going to bring it and bring his all. And I really do think Jalen Duren is going to be the center when the starting center when the Detroit Pistons finally make the playoffs. And I think it proves his character and his play style and what the impression he wants to leave on the Pistons. And so maybe he's not the most vocal captain, or maybe he's not the highest of IQ as compared to a Cade Cunningham or an Isaiah Stewart or so on. But he's one of those guys that's just a captain when the lights are on, the shot clock's rolling down. And that's when Jalen Duren shows up and he's a captain and a vocal leader for the Detroit Pistons. And that's something that I was impressed by when watching his second season, was just the way he showed up, his effort. He never bowed his head. He never, stumbled. He just kept grinding, even in those tough losses. And it proved a lot to me.
Yeah, like you nailed it. Like to see a guy work his tail off, even when you're down 20, like that speaks volumes. It sends the message like, hey, I'm here to play. I don't care for losing. I'm here to play. I want to help this team out as much as I possibly can. And I love those guys. They're high character guys. They have all the intangibles in the world to do something with it. And it shows you within the team that there is life. It's not just like a decaying team that there's no hope in sight. Duren is proving right before our eyes, like even in losses, like, hey, I'm here to play. I want to put on for my team. I want to carry them on my back. I want to do everything I possibly can to help this team win. Even if we're missing Cade due to injury, if we're missing Asar due to injury, if we're missing so on and so forth due to injury or suspension, whatnot, I'm going to be that guy to help carry this team forward. And I mean, you nailed it. What he was able to do in those situations, to me, it speaks volumes first off, but it's also impressive how young he is at 20 years old, sitting here going like, hey, I need to help this team push. I don't care if we're down 20. I don't care if we're down 40. I'm going to help this team win. And to me, I love that out of Duren, and I love seeing that this season.
As far as talking about the negatives, of course, we have to mention it. You kind of, highlighted it a little bit. It was a big thing when we were in Little Caesars Arena and we saw his matchup against Bam. he showed that he shows his age defensively when guys try to back him down in the paint. And you would think it's not something he has issues with, but I think he struggles with it just based off of, uh, you know, he's young. He's also trying not to foul. We know that's a big thing that he can struggle with, especially in first quarters for some reason. So I'm not sure if he's just trying to distinguish, okay, what's a foul? How do I pull back this hand? How do I make sure my knee is not in the wrong place where I'm going to get a foul? All these certain things. I don't know if he's just working through that. That's kind of my assumption. And we know guys like Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, some of these big name centers are going to get calls and fouls and stuff like that very easily with the slightest touches. So I would like to think that Jalen Duren's just working through some growing pains, getting used to the NBA and what's called, what's not called. But overall, it was something he struggled with this season, even going up against guys like Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, who we're seeing in the Western Conference playoffs right now. It was just something he struggled with. He just could not slow down guys that were backing him down in the paint, which is funny because he's a great shot blocker, is what I would think.
Yeah, like him, I really think to me, it's just that these guys are vetted, they have more experience. And that's really what the issue is with Duren is he doesn't have the experience. He's only 2 years in the league now. Bam Adebayo has been in the league for a minute now. Same with Rudy Gobert and the others. So I really think it's just veteran experience. Just being able to know, okay, I've been in the league for a while. I'm going to get this call every single time. Just different positioning. And I think Duren still needs to get there. He hasn't learned that yet. His shot blocking is good, but it's not great either. I mean, this season he did decrease in blocks. He had 12 less blocks than last year, finishing out with 47 this year. But defensively, I think he's fine. I think he just lacks the experience that a lot of these opposing big men have on him. And if he can get that experience, I think he's fine, and he's not going to foul as much. But also, I think a lot of the teams game plan for him. I think they try to find a way to get him out of the game early on rather than later, just because of what he can do offensively, what he can do defensively, how many rebounds he can get, how efficient he is. I think that's a big asterisk in his game that a lot of teams go after, is just how efficient he is overall as a player, that they want to take him out because they know if they can take out Jalen Duren, well, the Pistons have Stu. He's not going to do much. They have James Wiseman. He's not going to do much. So, and a lot of these teams in the league have great big men. Like you look at the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, Lakers, Anthony Davis, so on and so forth. So I really think it's a lot of the teams are game planning intentionally for Duren so they can foul him out, along with he doesn't have the experience that a lot of these big men have.
So the next topic I want to, well, not topic, but let's move forward a little bit, Ryan. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a funny route. I'll kind of explain to you what I'm looking for. If Jalen Duren's second season with the Detroit Pistons was a book title, what would you call it? Because some of the first book titles of how I would describe Jalen Duren's career, or second season rather, is Diamond in the Rough. Like, he was like a shining light in all the roughness that was the Detroit Pistons. Or maybe you could call his book title Beauty and the Beast, because he's just an absolute beast. I don't know who the beauty would be, but whatever. Maybe he's got a lady. Maybe it's Isaiah Stewart. Who knows? But is there any book titles that would be a great way to describe Jalen Duren's second season with the Pistons?
I would just say the Punisher. I don't know, just because of the increase in stats, like 230 more points this year than last year is crazy, and plus 115 more rebounds than last year. Like I said before, like the fact that he increased like double pretty much all those stats from last year to this year's, and it just incredible to me. I can't even talk because it's just that amazing. But
Yeah.
but no, I would probably say the Punisher. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
The Punisher, you just never know. Maybe he's got some acting chops. I don't know. Ryan, when talking about Jalen Duren's second season and he gets his grade for the season, what are your thoughts? What do you give him?
Honestly, I'm gonna give him an A plus. Just because again, he increased in every statistical category he could possibly have increased in. He improved his shooting. Granted he did play less games, so I should put a knock on him for that, like I did with Stu. But Stu, it's a little different because he only played 46 games, whereas Dern had 61, almost a full season. He just 20 some games left that he missed. So it's not terrible considering what Stu missed. So again, outside of not playing a full season per se, but just the increase in what he did from last year to this year, on top of like again 22 rebounds in a game, that's crazy. As you said, Beauty and the Beast, Diamond in the Rough. To me, he has an A plus season.
For me, it's harder to distinguish because obviously, when you look at statistics, top 5 rebounding in the league, 14 points per game. That's pretty nice to have, especially for a second year guy. But the Pistons had another losing season. He missed quite a few games. You give him an A plus. He did, like you said, he outdid all his statistics he did his rookie year. That's great. That's exactly what a teacher would want in a good grade. I'm gonna give him a B plus A. The only reason I do that is the missed games and just the Pistons didn't turn it around. They had a worse season than he did his rookie year. I want Jalen Duren to be the kind of guy that can turn this team around, not necessarily spearhead it, but to for his play on the defensive end as the 5, as the big man, to kind of turn this team into a winning team. And I really hope it's going to prove to be a good thing in his third season about turning the Pistons around. But I'm going to give him a B plus just to have a different grade than, because we've been matching a lot of each other's grades, but also just those 2 notches. Other than that, he had a great season. That will do it for episode number 26 of season 2. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to comment below. Turn your post notifications button on. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.